For the last 14 years and counting, we've only known one company to make NFL licensed video games, and that is Electronic Gimme Your Wallet Arts with NFL Madden. And we've only known 2K and EA competing in the basketball simulation market for just about the same amount of time. But what if I told you at one point there was a third company that was releasing every year, competing head to head with EA and 2K for NFL and NBA sim supremacy? Now, depending on when you were born, you may already know who I'm talking about. But for the ones who don't know, I'm talking about 989. Yes, 989 Studios, aka 989 Sports, was that third runner in the race in sports gaming at one point, releasing across 4 different sports with MLB, NBA, NFL, NHL titles, and even had their hand in college sports with basketball and football titles as well. These games were just as prominent as EA or 2K was in my formative years when I was introduced to gaming. Having such a large footprint in the sports gaming genre from the mid 90s and early 2000s, I honestly don't know what happened to 989 Sports. They were here for a while and then they weren't, like gone in an instant. I'd like to get to the bottom of what happened to the studio that gave EA a run for their money and made them sweat. Let's look at some history, shall we? But before we do that, go ahead and hit that like button and slap that subscribe button for your boy. If you're new, welcome to the channel. Hope you stick around. It's a good time, I promise. And buckle up, it's gonna be a long one. Let's get into it.
Oh my god, baby. Oh my gosh, baby, the way she makes me.
Now, before 989 became what we know it to be, it went through quite a few changes in the beginning. The company was originally founded as Sony Interactive Studios America. Wow, that is a mouthful. In this first iteration of the studio, they developed quite a few titles for the PlayStation 1. Most notable names like Twisted Metal 1 and 2, also Spawn Eternal. They also took their first steps into establishing themselves with sports video games, launching an insane 11 sports titles between 1995 and 1998. As Sony Interactive Studios America, the star out of the army of releases definitely was NFL Game Day. Met with critical acclaim, being dubbed as the possible Madden killer. Launched in December 1995, Game Day sold well by the end of 1996. It totaled over 1 million copies sold. And NFL Game Day 97 picked up right where its predecessor left off, selling 350,000 copies in just its first week alone. Met with critical acclaim again, critics making bold claims like this is the best football game ever. By their third installment, NFL Game Day 98 made it clear that this was no fluke. Sony was a powerhouse to be feared in the NFL sim market. Game Day 98 didn't only keep the streak alive, it proved that Sony's PlayStation 1 had power that other consoles could only dream of at the time, being the first fully realized 3D gaming experience to the consumer, with gameplay performance thought to be impossible to do in the 90s. It was also named runner-up for Sports Game of the Year and second for PlayStation Game of the Year behind Final Fantasy. The Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences nominated NFL Game Day 98 for Console Sports Game of the Year, Console Game of the Year, and Outstanding Achievement in Software Engineering. By September 1998, Game Day 98 sold over 1.4 million copies. And we can't forget to mention their NCAA Game Breaker series for college football was performing pretty well also, along with Game Day. So with that being said, this is very impressive. I know 1.4 million copies doesn't sound like a lot compared to the numbers of today of what games sell now, but we also got to keep in mind and keep the perspective that this is the 90s we're talking about. Okay, this is a one highly competitive time period where gaming was still a relatively new thing, or at least household gaming. You know, consoles were still relatively new to people gaming inside their homes and not being at arcades. And so everybody was popping up with developer studios. Everybody was trying to get into their hand into this new market that was gaming. We also have to understand and put in perspective that NFL Game Day launched in 1995. NFL Madden, the first NFL Madden, launched in 1988. So we're talking about a game performing pretty well for its very first time out, or its very first initial games, going up against a franchise that established itself 7 years prior to it even being created is a feat that we can't sleep on as whatsoever. So Game Day and Sony have established themselves definitely as a true competitor against NFL Madden. After a very successful 3 years of development for the PlayStation 1, the studio decided to go defunct as Sony Interactive Studios America shortly after 1997 and relaunched as 989 Studios in April 1998. And thank God for that rebrand, because I mean, Jesus, that is a mouthful. My God, that is too much to say. Now, at this point, there clearly was a lot of positives for 989 in the football market. We do have to acknowledge, while raising its star in the NFL sim market, 989's other sports titles were not performing very well. They actually were performing average at best. While making EA nervous with Game Day, their MLB series was struggling to compete with EA's baseball series, Triple Play, and NBA Shootout was playing catch up to EA's NBA Live series, and their college basketball games sadly were no better. With NBA 2K lurking around the corner in 99 with the Dreamcast, that didn't help their struggles either. As far as their NHL games go, well, I mean, they were just simply bad and struggled to get to average. Which, if we're gonna be honest, NHL games don't really sell that well today compared to FIFA, Madden, and 2K. Pretty sure it has something to do with the sport not being as popular. But I mean, hey, I don't really run into too many hockey fans, but hey, shout out to you if you are. With all that said though, it's safe to say this studio, while succeeding, was more than likely losing a lot of money on the other titles performing so poorly. So really, what was keeping 989 afloat was their presence in the football market. Now remember that, take that, keep it in your pocket. Don't forget it. That's very important to this next segment of the video, which unfortunately is the sad ending and death of 989, and that is the 2000s. After rebranding, 989 had continued success in football simulation with NFL Game Day 99. It seemed like nothing could stop Sony and their flagship football title. 989's victory lap was in full effect. Even with EA releasing Madden 99 in full 3D finally leaving their pixelated past behind, the gap between Madden and Game Day was apparent, and EA had a lot of work to do to catch up in the new 3D football market that Sony created. Critics calling Madden's gaming experience mediocre at best was a definite hit to EA's long-standing reputation as the leader in NFL simulation, now running second. But this edge over the competition would be short-lived. The 90s had come to an end, and so did PlayStation 1. And so did 989 Sports. Technically, 989 merged back with Sony Computer Entertainment, but they kept using the 989 brand and name and likeness for their sports titles. Sony launching the PS2, you would think it would be more dominant for 989, but sadly, it was the opposite. The 2000s was the beginning of a very fast, slippery slope for Sony's football titles. After NFL Game Day 2000, looking at the state of the market, I think there were a handful of reasons why the 2000s didn't go so well for 989. Well, for one, NFL Game Day simply wasn't special anymore. Back in the 90s, NFL Game Day was the very first football game to go full 3D. They benefited off of beating Madden to the punch. They caught EA being complacent and forced them to play catch up. It was only a matter of time before the Tuberon devs figured out Sony's software to start innovating to get their #1 spot back, which was the problem with Madden 1998, because the devs had such a hard time adjusting to the new technology that Sony had for PlayStation 1. They couldn't figure it out in time, and they completely scrapped 1998 for a Sony PlayStation 1 release, and they came out with the same old that they've been coming out with for all that time throughout the 90s. So all EA really needed was time, and they reclaimed their throne viciously with Madden 2001, getting critical acclaim, being nominated for numerous awards: GameSpot's Best Graphics and Technical, Best Nintendo 64 Game, Best PlayStation 2 Game, Best Sports Game. The Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences nominated Madden 2001 for Console Sports Game of the Year and Game of the Year. And lastly, Game Informer ranked Madden 2001 27th on their top 100 games of all time in 2001. So pretty much EA had nothing but demon time on their mind when releasing Madden 2001, and had nothing but plans to do nothing short of kicking NFL Game Days back all the way in to get that spot back. And not only that, there was a new heavy hitter in the market in the NFL 2K series, putting a lot of pressure on EA and 989 to perform. So between Madden dominating 989 on its own console platform in the PlayStation 2 and NFL 2K picking up steam on the Sega Dreamcast, Game Day relatively stayed the same in graphics and gameplay when it came to performance, which wasn't bad for the time. It just wasn't better than what Madden was doing. Game Day progressively got worse from 2001 through the last entry in the series in 2005. And I don't know exactly what happened to the devs or what got into them, but looking at this gameplay while making this video, honestly, it seemed like 989 just didn't care anymore. It's giving me the same impression on how EA treats NBA Live now. Graphically, the game just looks awful as the years went by, and gameplay nowhere near to what Madden 2001 to 05 was doing. It's also important to note that Sega discontinued the Sega Dreamcast after 2001, so NFL 2K was released for all platforms all the way up till a lot of people's favorite Madden killer in NFL 2K5. So my hunch is that Madden mastering the 3D platform and another competitor moving to the PlayStation 2 market, somewhere along the line, Sony and 989 Sports really just said, fuck it, and gave up on the sports market altogether. Like we said earlier, their other sports titles weren't doing that well anyway and losing money with every release. Football was their only major success. So once they stopped winning with that, they simply just stopped trying to make the game better. But as we all know, or as all we should know, that as fate would have it, in 2004, EA pulled the biggest trump card of all time. And it is the move that doomed us to eternal mediocrity when it comes to NFL sim games. Those snakes somehow convinced the NFL to give them an exclusive license to solely make NFL games. Thus, on some Thanos shit, made all other NFL games cease to exist and preventing any other new competitor to make an NFL game. And we knew that they did it because of NFL 2K. We all know, okay, they were absolutely terrified of NFL 2K5. EA didn't want a second coming of NFL Game Day putting them in second, because everyone that played NFL 2K5 knew 2K was about to wipe the floor with EA moving forward. And EA fucked around and found out really truly on their own, because when they priced Madden 05 at $50, NFL 2K5 was $20. And when people were discovering that the cheaper option was the better game overall, EA panicked and chopped their price damn near in half and made the game $30 instead of the $50 originally, just so that they can compete with NFL 2K, because NFL 2K sold 1.7 million copies and it almost sold 2 million. Yeah, EA was absolutely terrified of 2K. And we can say what we want about 2K today, but those guys back in the early 2000s knew how to make a goddamn good sports title. But let's stay on Sony and 989. So we all know how EA finessed for an exclusive license with the NFL. There was also a lot of moving parts happening with these companies. All right, EA actually lost their MLB license rights to 2K Sports in 2005. Because of declining sales with their baseball games, EA was out of the baseball market, which left 2K Sports and Sony. Sony retired the 989 brand after 2005 and scrapped their whole entire sports gaming division by this time, and only really was producing baseball games with MLB, which ultimately turned into what we know now today as MLB The Show in 2006. So it was 2K and Sony making MLB games until 2K lost their license in 2014 and Sony became the only MLB sim game on the market. So back to the question of what happened to 989 Sports. Well, they're technically still around actually. They are just Sony Computer Entertainment and they're making MLB The Show. So in conclusion, yes, 989 was a very short-lived developer studio lasting about 10 years. And ultimately, they were outclassed. And I mean, honestly, all the companies got out-finessed by EA, just completely hoeing everybody and getting the exclusive license for NFL games. Yes, it was short-lived, but we can't overlook the impact that they had in the short time that they were competing against EA. Because honestly, I don't know how long it would have taken for the industry to push forward to 3D football games or just 3D sports games in general if it wasn't for 989 and Sony pushing the envelope and showing the power of the PlayStation 1. So they're very integral to what gaming is today. I mean, I'm pretty sure we would have got there. I'm not saying that we would have never, but I mean, got there pretty fucking faster than I think we would have if we just left EA leading the way with NFL games. But that's it for this video. Thank you for stopping by and watching. If you made it to the end, you are a real MVP. And again, you guys hit that like button, slap that subscribe button if you haven't. I mean, if you made it to the end of the video, you might as well hit the like button and the subscribe button. But until next time, I will catch you guys on the next video. Go in the comment section, let me know how you feel. And until next time, I'll catch you guys on the next video. I'm out.